Hello and welcome everybody, welcome back to Deep Rock Galactic. We have new grenades and a new season to kind of talk about. So I'm going to be going over how to get into this beta if you would like to get into the experimental build of Deep Rock, because plenty of people were asking me the other day when I was streaming, and I did show it a couple times, but we're right here on the Steam page, and all you have to do is go to your library. This does only work for Steam as far as I'm aware. I don't know if it works for other platforms. I know it doesn't work for consoles, but I'm not sure if you got it on like the Microsoft Store, if you can also opt into this beta or not. This is a public beta, so everybody has the chance to hop into it if you would like to. For you to do this, go to Deep Rock Galactic, right click on it, go down to Properties, click on that, go over to the Betas section, click on that, and then click on this Opt-in, Opt-out tab, and you'll be either on none or the experimental build. The experimental build lets you check out all the stuff in Season 3, however, none of your progress carries over from the beta to the actual Season 3. So if you grind a whole bunch on the beta, it won't matter. You're not going to get anything extra from it. It's just to check out the new weapons and to check out the new mission types. So once you have that installed, you're going to boot up Deep Rock like normal, and you're going to be greeted here, where we have a couple different changes. We have a new miner's manual right over here that you can interact with. Normally you could interact with this just by hitting escape and then selecting everything, so you could check out your bestiary. Aside from that, there's a new way to get perk points. That is completing the lithophage outbreak warnings, just like there always is with these updates. However, there is no additional perks, so this is just for extra perk points, which is kind of nice, but I would like to see some of those change. We also have new Decontamination Chambers here, which is fantastic. I love these things. They're pretty awesome. They're on every single one of these. Very fitting. There is also this terminal that says cheats, which you can open up and force everything unlocked. So even if you're brand new to the game, you can force all of these on, and then you'll be able to try them out. So you can try out the new seasonal events, you can try out all the overclocks that you don't have, you can also just change up basically everything. You can have all the cosmetics and whatnot too if you would like to have that. Outside here we have a few more changes, like this being the most obvious one, and you can see where the plague has started to corrupt Hoxies. So if you take a mission in any of these, there is a chance of getting the lithophage outbreak, which I'm going to have gameplay of hopefully playing right in the background now. This is interesting, and it gives you a new primary objective where you don't have just the normal primary objective. Like if you were to go on a point extract mission, you no longer only have to do a quarks, you also have to do the outbreak, which is cleansing the outbreak. In order to do this, you have to go to wherever the outbreak is and then call down these cleansing pods. The pods drop down and they have 4 items of equipment in them. 2 of the foam blasters and 2 of the vacuums. The foam blasters have to be shot on the infection itself, and then somebody has to suck them up with the vacuum. This can be spread out amongst the team, or you can do it all by yourself, and you'll see an indicator on screen. The more that you are cleansing it, the faster the infection will go down, and you'll be able to cleanse the area. If you stand in the infection too long, you will get an animation of being grabbed by the infection and take damage. You have to struggle out of this. This is similar to being frozen. It does take a long time for this to build up though, so it's not a huge threat, as well as there can be new bugs that are spawning from the rockpox, as the dwarves call it. These bugs do seem to be tankier than regular bugs, as well as they emit the lithophage infection too, so you can be infected that way. On top of that, there is also a unique event that can happen upon going to any of these places that are infected, and that is a meteor strike will come down. Wherever the meteor crashes, it will deal massive damage to everybody inside the circle. It's kind of difficult to tell whether you're inside or outside of the circle at times, at least from the few times that this has happened to me, where you are sent down jackhammers that you break open the meteor itself and pull out the hearts. You then deposit these and they are taken back. This is also what you can use to get scripts in this particular update. So on top of that, there is a few other changes. Some of our equipment has been changed. As you can see at the very top, we now have 6 slots to potentially build however we would like. There is new grenades for every class, which we'll be talking about here in a second, and there is some updates for older weapons. So weapons like the GK2 actually got buffed, where now the GK2 has some extra base damage and a larger magazine, which is pretty nice. It also has some of its perks changed around. These could change in time, so I'm not going to be going over all of this right now, because I would like to wait for this to be official before we really dive into potential weapon changes. Some of the overclocks have been changed as well. Something like AI Stability Engine has been buffed. The Supercooling Chamber has also been buffed, which is kind of cool. As well as one of the more interesting ones, at least in my opinion, that got changed was the EPC. The EPC and actually the Sabata got changed too. Now we have acid-tipped bullets, which will deal corrosive damage, so will deal bonus corrosive damage. So extra synergies with the sludge pump, that's pretty awesome. And then the EPC got changed, at least with its tier 5, where we have Burning Nightmare, which was the burning regular shots that we had before, combined with Flying Nightmare, which works both ways. You can use a charged up shot and it will fly like Flying Nightmare, dealing damage to everything and lighting them on fire. And you can shoot regular shots that also light stuff on fire, which is a really cool change to this particular weapon. There's also a new tier 5, at least right now, which is called Plasma Splash. I have not tried it yet, though, so I will not comment on it until I have gotten a chance to try it. Now let's talk about the grenades, because the grenades are one of the major updates for this, where we have a new grenade for every single class. And first up, we have Scouts, which is the Boomerang. You get to hold 8 of these, which is great. They do 35 damage on hit. They can bounce back and forth between enemies, but they won't bounce to the same enemy multiple times. If there's only one enemy, it'll just hit that enemy and come right back to you. So you want to be using this on multiple enemies, at least 2 of them, so it can bounce back and forth. This can bounce 9 times, and this stuns enemies for a whopping 8.5 seconds. This is now the longest stun in the entire game. This is longer than Trank rounds for the Sabata, which was the previous one that stunned for 6 seconds. So 8.5 seconds is pretty awesome. It also applies the electricity sass effect, so anything that's affected by this and gets extra electricity damage on top of it, that makes a pretty good synergy, like the Zukov submachine guns. Could also work well if you have an engineer running Stubby. They have an option with that, or if they're using the Shard Diffractor and have the hydrogen rupturing on it. So good synergies all the way around. It's very useful for stunning large groups of enemies, and I think this one's going to be fantastic if you want to take it on MacTerra Plague. These aren't very difficult to use either if you throw them and there's no enemies around, so if you accidentally fat finger the button, which, I mean, happens to everybody, doesn't really matter. The boomerang will come right back to you, and you don't expend the boomerang. You can't only have one boomerang out at a time, though, it seems. So if you throw one and throw another one, it'll cancel the first one. Be sure to keep that in mind. There's 2 grenades now that do this. But overall, so far I'm quite happy with the boomerang. I find it very useful in Scout's loadout, and it's just very useful in the team in general. It's another utility option that Scout has. I mean, all of their grenades are utility, and this one fits right at home with Scout. I think it's actually really, really good. Next up, we have Drillers, which Drillers I was looking forward to the most. This is called the Spring-Loaded Ripper. This one, you get 6 of them. They do 145 impact damage. This is not melee damage, so this does not stack with Vampire. I tried that. It doesn't work. And the duration is about 8 seconds, where you throw this out and it will go crazy on absolutely anything that it hits. It does really high friendly fire damage too, so be very careful with this. You can down yourself or down friendlies with it pretty easy. And these ones are by far the most difficult of the new grenades to actually use effectively, I guess, or to control, because you can't really chuck them out in any sort of strategic way. They pretty much just go right out in front of you and take off at your feet going forward. So make sure that you're in a good position once you toss them, because you can't really toss this on the ceiling or toss it on a wall very easily with it going anything but a straight line from where you threw it out at. Now, that being said, though, it does do really high damage to basically everything that you hit, which is very nice. It does clear up big things, and it clears up small swarms very easily. Combine that with Driller's just innate ability to kill swarms really fast. I think it's another welcome addition, and I think it will be a tempting option. I doubt it's going to dethrone the Axes, though. The Axes are still super good. Even with this being added, they do feel a little bit more impactful than the Axes, at least in terms of crowds, because the Axe definitely still has the most single target damage and might still have the most utility, as well as you get 8 of them, which is nice. But this might be your most effective AoE weapon now with Driller, at least if you can throw it out effectively. Again, for me, it felt very odd. Then we have Engineers, which is called the SSG. I'm not sure what SSG stands for, but once you throw this out, it spits out 5 Shredder drones that will then go around and attack enemies. They will just follow you around. They're not locked to a particular area. They seem to last something like 30 to 60 seconds. I don't remember the exact amount. And they do 15 damage a hit. They can hit multiple enemies every time they go through, and they can hit the same enemy multiple times, as well as they can all swarm to one enemy, which is pretty cool. You can't injure yourself or friendlies with this, so tossing it out at any time is just a really safe option. It feels similar to like your lures. You get 4 of these, so you don't get a whole lot of them. They do feel nice. They don't feel nearly as damaging as like the plasma bursters, but they're far more controllable and they're far easier to use. You don't have to worry about this bouncing back at you like the plasma burster can, or bouncing to a friendly and potentially downing them. So I think it's a really cool option that Engineer has. You can also slap the Shredders too, which is kind of funny. It's nothing but an extra animation, but you can do it. You can also do it as other classes. You don't have to be Engineer. You don't have to actually own the Shredder drones, and it's not like it hurts them or anything. They'll be fine. They'll just go around and keep stabbing stuff. And then our last new grenade is called the Tactical Lead Burster, which this one is probably the most spectacle of the weapons. You get to hold 4 of these. This does take time to arm, where you toss it out and it goes for a second, and then it just starts firing out volleys and volleys of bullets. As you can see, it contains 576 bullets inside of it, and they go in all directions. This can hit the ceiling, the walls, the floor, everything around it, dealing pretty decent damage per shot. I don't know exactly how much damage per shot it does, but it does seem to kill things like regular grunts very easily. It can kill acid spitters and web spitters very easily. It doesn't do well against the bigger, tankier bugs, though. It won't do a ton to Praetorians or Oppressors or even Guards. They can kind of just shrug this off. But it is a really cool option, and I think it's going to be very useful when you take it on, like, escort missions, where you have to escort Dottie, and you can throw this behind into a wave of grunts and potentially just mow them all down with this gun. It's really cool. I really like it. I don't know how great it is compared to the other gunner grenades, but it is super fun, and the spectacle alone is very awesome. Now, on top of that, we have some other things around the rig that have been changed. As you can see, the infection has infected part of the rig. We have some of the new weapon skins out here that you can see. This is the burst pistol. We also have the M1000 rifle. I believe that's what this is. And the Loki, just sitting over here with the new skins, as well as the minigun. We have new containment jars that the dwarves can tap on. Contamination suits laying around. I think that's from the new DLC where you will get the contamination suit. And I think that there's a gas mask laying around here somewhere, but I don't recall exactly where it is. There is also a new performance pass, which we can at least look at. Any progress that you make here, again, does not transfer over to the actual game. So don't bother grinding this. Just you can kind of look at it and see what it's going to be. We have new beards, new hair, new axe parts, which look great. We have a new seasonal event. This is collecting so many hearts from them. As you can see, I collected a couple of them to collect more scripts. We're still going to have, you know, the seasonal events and everything like that, and more things that you can unlock down here, as well as some of these masks that look fantastic, like the Plague Doctor mask. I'm looking very forward to getting. We also have the new cosmetic tree, so you can unlock things here. This is the new weapon framework, which is called Mil-Spec, and I really like the weapon framework. I think it looks really good. The color, I'm not the biggest fan of. That army green, I don't think looks good on a lot of the weapons. That doesn't mean you can't change it. I think it looks really good in some of the other colors, and it's really cool that we have some of these. They also remind me kind of the corporate design, at least in terms of the weapon designs. And then, of course, we have other things where we can have helmets, beards, bandanas, and then new colors for suits, which these all look really cool. I'm looking really forward to all of these platinum paint jobs and all of these slate paint jobs. I think that they will be very good. Oh yes, and one other thing. Something happened with our fridge. Not entirely sure what, but I don't think we're allowed to use it anymore. So first impressions of the new season, I think it looks great. All of the new grenades are at the very least very fun to use, even if they might not be the strongest, which I'm always more of a fan of fun than necessarily whatever is meta in this game. The new skins, I think, look great. I'm really looking forward to unlocking all of these with the weapons, and I mean, the colors, once you put on a different color than the standard, I think it really pops with them. So tell me your thoughts on Season 3 and the things you're looking forward to in it. I think it's really cool that some of the older weapons and stuff are getting looked at and getting changed around. That's always nice. Gives me more options for builds and stuff, which I'm always a big fan of. Thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate it. And special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are my members over here on YouTube, patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos just like this. And if you would like to be a part of it, you can. There's a link down in the description. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye!